So first of all, I would like to introduce myself Sonam, and I'll be your host for this session. Okay. So let's understand who have bought this session for you and why. Okay. So first of all, the session has been bought to you by Isaac Learn. So we have to just know about, a bit about Isaac Learn. So for that, I'm going to play a video where you will know what Isaac Learn exactly doing. Okay. So this is all about Isaac Learn. Basically, Isaac Learn providing upskilling courses, which is online. So you can go for any upskilling courses like digital marketing, cyber security, healthcare, foreign language, whichever you want, which will help you to grow in your career in any field. Okay. Now let's back to the session and moving ahead, I would like to tell you one more thing that throughout this session, you guys will be on mute. So do not worry if you have any query, any questions, you can write in the chat box or in Q&A session. We will take your queries or questions at the end of the session. Okay, so be with me. Okay. Now I would like to introduce you with our expert trainer who is going to take you through this session of finance literacy. And her name is Dr. Swati Narula. She is like experienced academic. One second. With over 15 years of teaching and research expertise at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. And her academic focus is primarily in finance with a special emphasis on financial literacy, investment behavior, and financial management. So overall, what we require today to know about the finance because in at school or graduation or in post graduation, nobody teaches these basic things which we should know. Okay. And the third point is she has conducted several workshops aimed at educating individuals basics of where she discussed about the basics of investing and personal financial planning, and she has actively participated in numerous national and international conferences and contributing to the discourse of finance and financial education, and with a passion for bridging the knowledge gap in personal finance. She aims to equip individuals with the skills needed for informed financial decision making. So overall, she will help you to know more about finance and how you can manage your finance and a basic knowledge which everybody should have. Apart from this, if somebody want to make career in finance management, they also can go for that, or she will guide you from beginning to advance. Okay, so I would like to welcome her, Dr. Swati Narula, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you.
Kindly start this session. People are waiting for you.
Thank you so much. So let's begin. All right. So I will start with uh, giving you a glimpse of understanding the importance of investments. Let's see a case. There is a person in front of us. He says, "Hi, friends. I am Mohan Krishan from Madurai. I am 32 years old. Me and my wife work for a public sector company. Me and my wife have surplus funds in savings account, but we do not have invested anything. I am new to investing, want to know about capital markets. And the target is that he wants to deploy money decisively and get good returns. Isn't this what we all aspire for? That we want to deploy our money and let our money work for us. One is that we are working hard to earn our money. Second is, whatever money we are earning, let us why not put it to work so that the money earns itself for us. So he says that he has surplus funds in savings account. Now, does it mean that he has done some investments? The answer is of course no. Since he has surplus funds in his savings accounts, so this makes him eligible for making the investments. So first point to understand is that whenever you intend to make certain investments, of course you need to have surplus funds with you. The surplus funds which you have put in your savings account is not investment. Why? Because it is not generating any return for you. It is not put to any use. It is not helping in the development of the country, and it is not generating any returns for you. So it is not an investment. Rather, it is a saving which you have done, or you have kept aside certain funds which can be utilized as and when required. So the agenda of the workshop would be to understand what is more important, savings or investment. What are the steps in financial planning? And we will also understand about the investment sutras. We will try to touch upon what capital market is, though it is a very intensive topic and it requires a full length, 2 hour workshop for understanding, in fact, what a capital market is. But I'll try to touch upon the basic points which tells you what capital market is. And I'll be talking about few of the investment options, which includes mutual funds, ETFs, and SGPs. So, money fascinates us all. Money. My question to you is that does money buy happiness? Of course, the answer is money doesn't buy happiness, but money buy you choices. It is what you do with those choices that makes you happy. Now, the choice is to you, up to you, that the money that you're earning, whether you are utilizing that money to buy a luxury car or you're utilizing that money to make certain investments with which you can buy a house, you can buy maybe a, foreign trip for your family or things like that. So the choice is on you, and you need to decide that whatever you are buying with the money that you have, is it actually essential at the moment? Because if you keep on buying things that you do not need, certainly you will have to sell certain things that you need in future. So hence it is very important for each one of us to understand how to manage money. Now when we talk about financial planning, planning, as we all know, talks about bringing the future into present. When we talk in context of finances, we are basically try to foresee our future and plan it in present, that what are you going to do in future with the money that you're going to have in future. So at presently you are trying to understand whatever money that you will earn, how you're going to spend it, how you're going to save it, how you're going to invest it. So planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now. Because as we all know, we have no control over our past, we have no control over our future. It is only the present that we can control. So controlling our present so as to decide what are we going to have in the future is what financial planning is all about. When we talk about the steps in financial planning, of course, it starts with identifying goals. Now, here, when I'm talking about goals, I am specifically referring to the financial goals. What financial goal comes to your mind when you think about it? One of the financial goal could be that I want to sponsor my child education. Another financial goal could be I want to buy a 4 BHK house maybe 10 years from now. Another goal could be I want to buy so and so car in 5 years to come. Another goal could be I want to go on a foreign holiday with my family. So these are the types of goals that you have. First step whenever you start with your financial planning journey is that what are you planning for? What is your financial goal? Once you have identified your financial goal, it could be anything, whatever is your motto, whatever you want to achieve, that could be your financial goal. Now, once you have identified your financial goal, of course, the second part talks about identifying your present situation. And how do you identify your present situation? You identify your present situation by making an assessment of what assets and liabilities do you have at present. What assets do you own? What liabilities you have to pay off? At present, do you actually have something of value which is already owned by you? Do you have one house wherein you are living, which is in your name, and you want to buy another big house? Or uh, suppose whatever liabilities you have incurred for sustaining your assets, maybe for the house that we are talking about, do you have incurred any loan? Have you procured any loan from a bank, from a friend? Have you taken any loan, or from any financial institution? Any kind of loan, maybe education loan, house loan, personal loan, car loan, whatever assets and liabilities you have at present, you make an assessment of that, on the basis of which you decide, or you try to ascertain what your likely future earnings would be. What is your present salary? How much expect What is your expectation? How much increase are you expecting in next year, maybe next 5 years, maybe next 10 years? Are you planning to change your job? What future expenses are you expecting? The next part talks about it. Your likely future expenses are also important, because as I said in the beginning itself, that it is on the basis of your earnings and your expenses, the surpluses that you have, that money only you plan to invest. Though it should be other way around, the investment amount should be decided pre-hand, and then the expenses should be planned. But generally we do it like this, that we try to ascertain what our earnings would be, what our expenses would be, on the basis of which we start our planning work, wherein we try to first determine how much investments are we ready to make. Once we have determined the amount of investments that we are ready to make, we will also identify the various asset classes to which my money can be put. I will also have a target rate of return in mind, that whatever investments I am making, at least it should fetch me this much amount of money, this much amount of return. Once I have allocated my money as per the plan that I have made, I will try to review my portfolio. It is not one time task, let me tell you. You do review work, you do evaluation work, monitoring your portfolio every now and then. That again, frequency can be decided upon uh, based on what your goals are, what is the time period that you're putting for which you are putting your money to into investment, any kind of investment option. So accordingly you decide that after how much interval of time am I going to review my portfolio. Then if I plan that if I put in so and so a stock, I am going to make at least 15% return from it. Now the stock market has taken a u-turn, and your 15% return maybe has converted into 6%, 8%, 10%, or even a negative value as well, negative return also. So you need to review. And then finally this process keeps on going every now and then. It is a continuous process, it doesn't stop. Once one goal has been achieved, you will try to identify another goal. Now when we talk about the financial planning, another thing that we must be aware about is the risk and reward matrix. In finance, we generally say that risk and return goes hand in hand. So if you want a higher return, you have to be ready to undertake higher risk as well. Or if you want to settle down for a lower reward, then you must do it with a lower risk. You should not take high risk for low reward, right? So, accordingly, we have different options in which we make investments. Like when I talk about the low risk, low reward kind of profiles, kind of investment options, the bank deposits, the post office schemes, the public provident fund, the debt oriented schemes fall into this category, which guarantees you a minimum return. The risk is less, the risk of default is very less, and that is why the return which is offered on these type of investments is also very low. When we talk about um, high risk high reward, the assets which fall into this category are very risky assets, such as the derivatives and the futures. An understanding of these is pertinent if you want to invest in them. Then equity and equity oriented products, they're said to be very high risky in terms of the investments that you make. You may lose your even the principal amount, or you may earn a very high reward as well. The return that you generate in the equity is said to be the highest. Real estate also falls under a part of it when we talk about the high risk and the high reward kind of investments. Now, a wise investor would not like to settle for a low reward for undertaking high risk. And that is why, under this, I have put why take more risk for lower returns? If you want lower returns, then why not will you invest in certain instruments which are related with lower risk as well? You would not go for high risky investments which are promising you lower rewards. So this doesn't make sense. And you have to be cautious about those kind of promises which are unscrupulous, made by people who intend to just snatch your money from you and run away. So if somebody promises you to make you rich overnight, let me tell you that these schemes are only ponzi schemes and they are not going to give you any return. So low risk and high reward doesn't exist. High reward would always be compensated, would always be commensurated with high risk. So if somebody says, or if some scheme promises unrealistic returns where risk is very low, beware. Do not invest in such schemes. This is a word of caution from my side to you. Now, there are three important concepts in investments which everybody must understand. The first one is time value of money. Now, we all know that the value of money doesn't remain same. It changes with time. The same amount of 100 rupee, the kind of goods it used to fetch for our parents, for our grandparents, and for us varies. Similarly, it would vary for our children also. With the same 100 rupees, if they were able to get maybe 4 kilograms or 5 kilograms of uh, maybe atta, a basic requirement like atta, wheat flour. Now, at present, you are only able to get maybe 2 kgs, and in future, maybe our children would be able to fetch only half a kg or 1 kg. So, value of money is changing and it is deteriorating with time. It is going down. Why is it going down? There are a couple of reasons behind it. One of which is the inflation, which is another concept that we talk about when we talk about investments. So, inflation means a general increase in the price of goods and commodities with the passage of time. So, the same, as I said, wheat flour, which was available maybe 5 years back or 20 years back at a price of 20 per kilogram, is now available at 80 per kilogram. Why has it happened? Because of the rise in prices. So, as I was telling you, that the value of money doesn't say remain same. There are two types of money that we talk about: the future money and the present money. So, with time value of money, we are able to calculate what is that, what is the money which I will be requiring in future. If at present, to run a household comprising of two married people, husband and wife, and two children, if at present suppose let it requires maybe 1 lakh a rupee, 1 lakh rupee a month, maybe after 10 years it would require 2.5 lakh of rupees. So how do I come to that value? I come to that value by using a concept time value of money, wherein I have calculated the future value of money. The value of money, one reason I said decreases because of the inflation. Another reason is that if at present you have certain sum of money with you and you invest it somewhere, so what will happen is that your money will grow. If you're not making investment, you're foregoing that return which you could have generated. So that is why again your value of money is changing. Inflation, as I said, eats up your money, eats up your purchasing power. As our parents were able to fetch maybe 5 kilograms of the same of some commodity 10 years back, 15 years back, 20 years back, and we are able to get only 5 kilograms of the same commodity. So what has happened is our purchasing power has reduced. We are able to, with the same amount of money, we are able to get lesser products. So whenever you are making investments, you have to make sure, investments means that you are foregoing your current consumption. The money that you earn, either you will uh, spend it, or you will save it. When you save it, out of that savings, you make investments. So, whatever investments you are making at present, let me tell you, you're foregoing your current consumption. And for what are you foregoing your current consumption? So that at least whenever in future you want to buy that same commodity, you're able to do that. So if there is inflationary condition, you want to be assured that whatever investments you are making, they are inflation proof, which means that the good which is available today at 100, and you're foregoing your consumption today, and you're making investment. So after an year, your money that you have invested should be commensurate enough to buy the same commodity at the price which is available. Maybe at after an year, the same commodity is available at 110. So the investments must give you at least 110 so that to buy that commodity. If it is giving you more, that means your investments are inflation proof and they are covering the inflation and giving you something extra also. Now, the third important concept in investments is the compounding. And let me tell you, it is called as the eighth wonder of the world. Albert Einstein himself said that those who understand what compounding is, they earn it, and those who don't, they pay for it. So, compounding is a very important concept, and the greater the amount of time that you put your money into investment, the more it grows. This is the beauty of compounding. I will try to explain this concept with the help of a very small story, wherein if you try doing it on your own, how compounding works. Suppose we all have a chessboard with us. So if you keep 1 grain of rice on the first box of block that we have in the chessboard, and you keep on doubling it every time you move to the next box, keep on doubling it. You will not even imagine the moment you reach 64th block of the chessboard, how much rice would you require for that? It would be 1 8 raised to the power 18 zeros. This is the amount of rice grain which would be required to put if you keep on doubling. Similar thing happens with your money. If you start with your investment journey and you become consistent in that, let me tell you, even if you're out of your pocket money, if you're a student and you start making investment of only 500 rupees, only 50 bucks as well will do. If you put it to, uh, I mean, keep invested for next 20 years, 25 years, you'll have a tremendous amount of money with you, which can be utilized at that time for fulfilling your wishes and your goals. Moving forward, when I talk about investment sutras, it is always suggested that before you make any investment, you must always plan for the emergencies. So the money that you're earning should not
Uh,
only be utilized for um maybe incurring your regular expenses, or saving something, or making investments, but you must also plan for emergencies as well. And in your
Swati,
emergency fund, it is generally suggested that you must keep at least 6 months of your monthly expenses as a part of your
Swati,
emergency fund. Yes, please.
uh,
So moving back, I was talking about the sutras. So the first sutra is that you must always plan for your emergencies. The second sutra is that you must plan for your family goals. As we started with the financial planning, we I said that you must have your financial goals in mind. Now, those financial goals should also include your family goals. And also, you must keep in mind that you will not continue to work forever. So, you must plan for your retirement as well. It is not just for meeting your present needs or for your future needs of your family that you require money. You also require money when you grow old and you do not intend to work. So, you must plan for your retirement too. Now, there are financial products as per your goals. There are different products as per different goals that you have. And as we move across, as we move from a young age to an old age, our risk appetite keeps on decreasing. At a young age, when we do not have any responsibilities, when we are unmarried, maybe when we are student, when we are dependent on our parents, the moment we start earning, we become independent. But even though we have become independent, we still do not have any responsibilities to take care. So at that point in time, our risk taking capacity is high. Whereas when we move towards the old age, our risk appetite goes on decreasing, as I said. So you have to plan your products as per your goals and as per your life cycle too. So when we talk about the high risky investments, uh, we generally talk about investments in the stocks, ETFs, index funds, debentures, mutual funds, public provident funds. These become a part of your medium risk kind of thing, wherein you invest money for medium and long term goals. When we talk about needs, the short term needs or planning for emergencies is done generally by keeping your money in savings account, fixed account, recurring deposits, post office schemes, or your money market funds. Your money market funds are the investments that you do in short term investments wherein the maturity is less than 1 year. Now, apart from this, you also have your insurance needs to take care of, which includes your medical insurance, your life insurance, and your other insurance products, maybe endowment, whole life, or money back products. So, the time to start planning is now. It is never too late. The moment you start realizing that it is important for you to invest, that is the right time for you to start your planning. You must invest in less risky products for short term goals. And as you plan for long term goals, you may invest in riskier products as well. The simple reason behind this is that when you invest for long term, you're ready to undertake both the upside and the downside. When you talk about your retirement, you must invest in the stock market, but with a long term view. uh, as a financial expert, would always recommend you to make investments for long term. Why long term? Because you give space to your money, you give time to your money to grow appropriately. Even if you're making losses in the short run, doesn't matter. Be patient. Monitor and patience. Monitoring your portfolio from time to time and patiently letting your money grow is is the success mantra. Now, when we talk about the investment evaluation factors, there are a lot of factors which determine how much investments can you make, and in what kind of instruments can you invest your money. Whenever we are making investment, let me tell you the three important aspects that you must look for mandatorily are the safety of your investments, because it is your hard earned money. You do not intend to lose it. Second is that it should be liquid enough. Whenever you want to liquidate it, whenever you want your money back, you should be able to get it with ease. And the third is that your return should be commensurate with your risk. So if you're going in for high return, then you must be ready to take high risk. As I said earlier, if you are a low risk profile person, then you must invest in low risky investments and settle down for low returns. So these three are the most vital factors. Apart from it, your investment evaluation would also be determined by the convenience with which you can make the investments. Do you have appropriate knowledge, or you want to hire somebody whose expertise you want to undertake, maybe the wealth managers, mutual fund holder, the mutual fund companies, or companies like that which provide you assistance in making investments on your behalf. It would also depend upon the ticket size, in the sense that how much investment are you ready to make in one go. Also, the taxability of your earnings determine your investment evaluations. There are certain kind of investments on which the return that you get is tax exempted, and in fact the government itself wants to promote investments in certain kind of instruments, and that is why it gives you a kind of rebate in your taxable income if you make certain type of investments which are eligible for maybe reduction under section 80C, 80D, and there are other uh, sections as well of income tax act, which provides you with a cushion, which provides you with what you say shield, and helps you save your tax. So tax deduction and taxability of your earnings is also important when you're deciding upon which investments you should choose for yourself. Now, when we talk about capital markets, capital market is a part of our securities market. Now, let me first give you a glimpse of what securities market is, and after that, I will introduce what capital market is all about. So, when I talk about securities market, it is like any other market. When you go to any nearby market around you, maybe to shop groceries, maybe to shop clothes, maybe to shop toys for your kids. So, it is a market wherein the buyer and seller interact with each other. Similarly, when we talk about securities market is a place wherein the buyers and the sellers of the securities come together. So the what is the maturity of those securities which are being traded in a particular market, that determines whether that market is a capital market or a money market. As I already said, that money market is a market for short term funds wherein the maturity of the instruments is less than 1 year. Whereas when you talk about capital market, it is the market for long term funds. All the companies that you see trading around, all the companies, big corporate houses like Tata's, Birla, Adani, and all, which we have in India, and globally also many firms. Now, whenever they require money, how would they get money? One is that they go to a bank or a financial institution, but that cannot be done again and again. There's certain restrictions as well which are put to them. So what they do is they go to the capital market. In fact, capital market is a market which provides funds to government, to any kind of corporate, to any kind of entity which is approved and listed, to generate money and to let their businesses grow, because it is with the growth of the businesses that the country grows. So capital market is basically a place where buyers and sellers indulge in buying and selling of financial securities like the bonds, stocks, etc. And the trading in this type of market is undertaken by participants, which could be individuals, which could be institutions. In India, when we talk of this market, is governed and regulated by SEBI, that is Securities and Exchange Board of India. And this is why I said that only the entities which are approved, they can uh, ask for money in this kind of market, capital market. Now, one of the instrument which has emerged in the recent years is a mutual fund. And let me tell you, it is a very good instrument, investment instrument, and which has become very popular as well. Since Indians were very wary of investments in the stock market, they did not understand what a stock market is. So, what idea has been derived is that why not uh, pool their money and hand it over to somebody who has expertise in it. So here the concept of mutual fund goes like this, that people like us, me, you. So when I talk about mutual fund is a concept wherein the investors pool their money. They hire a fund manager who manages their money on their behalf. Of course, why would somebody do it? He does it for a commission. Now, what is the task of this fund manager? The money that he gets from the investor, he invests it in the securities. So he is the one who is competent enough, who has the knowledge about the stock market, who has the knowledge about various instruments, and he tries to allocate the money into various securities which can generate return. Now, when the returns are generated, who is the beneficiary? It is the people who have put in their money. It is the investors. So fund manager would deduct the charges, would deduct the commission, would deduct the office expenses, and whatever returns are generated, he would distribute it as per the holdings of the shareholders, as per the holdings of the investors to the investors themselves. This is how it is a win-win for everybody. Win-win for the fund manager, win-win for the investors, and win-win for the companies who have issued the securities. Now, why mutual funds? Why would somebody go in for a mutual fund? People go in for a mutual fund because it gives them the benefit of professional management. As I said, that people who do not have expertise in uh, just making research about which kind of stock would be good for them, which stock is going to give them good returns, which is the sector which is going to perform better in the future. Is it the banking sector that they should invest their money into, or is it the power sector in which they should put their money into? So professional management would be possible when you hire a fund manager. He has well experience in the field of mutual fund industry, in the field of investments, and he make the decisions on your behalf. So one reason is that people go in for mutual funds because it gives them the benefit of professional management. Second is, it is very transparent. Whatever investments are made, they are made known to the investors. Where is the investment made? Another reason why people choose mutual funds is that it provides them with the liquidity. So you buy the units and you can sell the units whenever you want your money back. As I said, whenever you evaluate your investments, so you have to be sure that you are able to liquidate your investments as well. The people who have put in their money in bitcoins, even though the value has grown so much, do you think that the investment is liquid enough that they can get their money back? No, it is not. So these fancy instruments do not give you liquidity. The instruments such as mutual funds provide you with high liquidity. They can be easily sold off, and your money can be uh, given back to you within no time. Another thing, it provides you with the convenience. Since you're not required to undertake any research, it is done by the fund manager himself. So it provides you with the convenience. Convenience in terms of making investments as well. Now, how is it convenient to make investments? If you decide to purchase a mutual fund, you can just do it through your smartphone. You need not even visit a bank or a mutual fund company. There are several apps through which you can just connect your bank account with it, and you can do a SIP as well. Systematic investment planning also can be done. So this is the convenience that you get as an investor, and moreover, it gives you a benefit of small ticket size. Now, I being an individual investor, I may not be uh, ready to buy, or I may not be having funds to buy a stock which is worth rupees 10,000, a stock which is worth rupees 5,000 or 2,000 or 1,000, in fact. But if I have 500 rupees with me and there are 10 people around me who have 500 rupees, now when they put in their money, 500 into 10 makes it 5,000. Now I can buy that share, which as an individual I was not able to buy. So small, with the small ticket size also, you can invest in very good companies. It gives you the benefit of diversification as well. Even the 500 that you have invested in a mutual fund, that 500 altogether will not be put in one sector. Whatever money they pull in, they put it into different sectors, so that if one sector is not performing well, it is compensated by the performance of the other sector. Also, it is well regulated by SEBI. As I said, all the instruments that you have in the capital market, including the mutual funds, they are well regulated, and they are regulated by SEBI. So rest assured, your money is not going to go anywhere. And in fact, whatever policies SEBI made, they're
Swati,
very
sorry to
investor friendly
interrupt.
policies. And the last point is that it also gives you a benefit of low cost. If you personally hire a fund manager, you may be required to provide him with a huge compensation. But if the compensation is shared by a number of people, it leads to a lower cost. In fact, all the expenses of the mutual fund company, they're shared by the investors. So this gives you a benefit of low cost also. Now, whenever you try to decide upon any mutual fund, again, it is mandated by SEBI that whatever mutual fund you talk of, these mutual fund companies are mandatorily required to put in this riskometer along with the other factors, other details about the mutual fund. So, this riskometer basically tells you from low to very high what is the category that this fund fits into. Depending upon your risk level, the investor that you are, the type of investor that you are, you match your profile with the profile of the mutual fund and then decide whether you want to make investment in such so and so fund or not. Like if you're low risk, if your level is low risk, you're a conservative investor, so you would invest in a fund which falls in the category of low or low to moderate. If you are a moderately conservative investor, you may put in your money into low to moderate risk. If you're a moderate investor, based on your risk type, based on your risk appetite, you would invest in a fund which falls into the category of moderate risk. If you're a moderately aggressive investor, You may make investment in moderately high mutual fund. If you are aggressive investor, you may make investment in funds which fall in the category of high risk. And if you're very aggressive investor, you would definitely like to put into your money into very high risk. Now, why is this segregation done? Because whatever returns is being provided by the mutual funds, they will also claim their returns according to the risk that they are showing. So everything goes in the tandem, everything goes in synchronization, and that is why this riskometer has been mandated by SEBI. Whenever you are investing in mutual funds, you must do your due diligence. When you talk about due diligence, what are the factors, what are the parameters that you must analyze to pick up a right mutual fund for you? You should always compare the fund's performance, which is provided by every mutual fund company on their website. You must always compare it with the benchmark performance. Benchmark could be anything.
Uh,
Benchmark could be a bank X, benchmark could be a Sensex, benchmark could be Nifty, benchmark could be any index. So you must also try to evaluate the expense ratio, and the expenses should be to the kept minimum. A mutual fund is considered to be a good wherein the expense ratio is the least. Also, you must check your risk level, which is done through the riskometer, as I've already explained. You must also check the fund's history in terms of performance of the fund in the last 3 to 5 years. Because if it has given good returns in the last 3 to 5 years, it will continue to do so in next 3 to 5 years as well, based on the general assumption. You must also check the turnover ratio of the portfolio. That is, how frequently the fund manager buys or sells securities from the funds. A high turnover would mean that he is actively engaged into managing your money. If it is a passive fund, then the portfolio turnover ratio doesn't matter. And the most important factor is also the history and the background of the fund manager. Every mutual fund company, again, they are mandatorily required to put into their site who is the fund manager, right? So you can also check his qualifications, his experience, his background, and history that he has uh, for the past number of years. Moving to the next part. So ETFs are basically a blend or a midway between your mutual funds and shares. So shares are continuously traded. Their prices keeps on changing every minute, in fact every second, real time change in prices. And you can trade in shares through a broker. Whereas when you talk about the mutual funds are sold in terms of units, and the unit is uh, basically determined by the NAV, that is net asset value. And they're diversified enough. They invest in a couple of options, not just shares. They invest in a couple of options. Somewhere midway between them, we have exchange traded funds, which has become a popular investment choice. The reason being, their cost of operations is even lesser than mutual funds. So this is suitable for investors who seek diversification, low cost, transparency, flexibility, and tax efficiency. Because in mutual fund investments, they may not give you tax returns, tax efficiency, but the exchange traded funds, ETFs, are generally they provide you with the tax benefit also. They, just like shares, they can also be bought and sold throughout the trading day. So this is another advantage which is associated specifically with exchange traded funds. And one of the recent additions to this investment alternatives is the sovereign gold bond scheme introduced by the government of India, SGBs as they are popularly called. These are the government securities denominated in grams of gold. Now, since these are government securities, what do you think? What would be the risk of default? It is minimal or close to zero. So, what happens is that when you want to make investment in sovereign gold bonds, investors pay the issue price in cash, or they can buy it through bank holds. They basically buy the bonds. The bonds will be redeemed in cash on maturity. It is not the gold that you get, rather, you get in terms of cash, transfer in bank account also. The bonds bear an interest at a rate of 2.50, which is fixed per annum on the nominal value, which is credited semi annually, and they earn returns linked to gold prices as well. They are available in demat forms and paper forms both. Since these are government securities, so you have sovereign guarantee to it. That is, they are issued by Reserve Bank of India on behalf of Government of India. The minimum investment that you can do as an investor is 1 gram, and the maximum investment is 4 kilograms for the individual, 4 kilograms for the HUFs, that is Hindu Undivided Family, and 20 kilograms for the trust and similar entities as per this fiscal, that is with April to March. They are tradable in the secondary market also. They're tradable on NSE, though there are not many sellers, because this is a very good investment option. People generally don't try to liquidate it. The maturity period is 8 years. So after 8 years, whatever appreciation has taken place in terms of in the prices of gold, you get benefited in that term. Also, you get 2.50 fixed rate of return per annum semi-annually. So this is the advantage which is associated with SGPs, and they have become very popular these days. Now, this is all about understanding what investments are and how you must try to start your investment journey, how you must plan, what are the various alternatives that you have, how you must pick up a particular investment alternative for you, and things like that. So, I am through my part of explaining what it is all about. Now, I give you a work to check your financial health. Now, this financial health will give you a wake up call whether you are moving on the right track or not, or if you have not done anything so far. So, how you can go about it and start planning for it right now, right away. So, this is available on investor.sebi.gov.in, and there are a couple of financial calculators as well which are available for your use, which you can make use when you're talking about the concepts such as time value of money. Let me just first show this calculator to you. uh, Suppose you want to calculate future value, that at present, if I make an investment of 1 lakh rupee today at so and so interest rate, what would be my money after 10 years?
Swati,
Or you want to
kindly
calculate
share
your
your
EMI
screen.
if you're
Screen is
going
not
for any
visible.
loan. This can these all
Swati,
calculations. Yes, please.
your screen is not visible. Kindly reshare it.
Yes, sure. I hope it is visible now.
Yes, it's
So I am at this web URL investor.sebi.gov.in, and these are the free calculators which you can make use of in case you want to calculate your insurance needs, you want to do some goal planning, you want to see your retirement planning, you want to check your net worth, financial goal planner, power of compounding. You want to check all these things can be evaluated through this calculators, pre-made calculators made for the easy use of the investors. Apart from it, as I said, you must do it today itself. You must check your financial health, and it will give you at the end when you submit your answers there. Let me tell you, there is no right wrong answer. It depends upon which situation are you in and what is your current course of action. So this will give you a prompt as well at the end, that what you must do, where you are doing right, where you are going wrong, and what you must do from today itself. So I leave you with that thought, and I open the house for question and answer.
okay. So, if you have questions, you can write in the chat box or you can type in the Q&A section. Swati,
Thematic funds. One of the question that I can see in the chat box
mhm.
is, what are thematic funds? Thematic funds are basically those funds which have certain themes. Like when you talk about these are equity mutual funds which invest in the stocks which are tied to themes. They are more based like your sectoral funds. So what they do is they pick companies from particular sectors, and here what you do is that you get benefit of increase in a particular sector itself. If a particular sector is going doing good, so what you do is that you pick up that sector, and you pick up the companies from that particular sector and you make investment in those equities or equity funds. So that is what thematic funds are. In case you want more details, I can share it with you. Just give me a second in the chat box itself. More details about the thematic funds and be shared. Any other question that you have, please put it in the chat box.
Sorry, Sandeep is asking, I'm new to investment. It is necessary to invest by a fund manager.
Just give me a second.
Meanwhile, I request you all to fill the feedback form I have put in the chat box. Kindly do not leave the meet without filling it, because where we will know about your requirement, which course you are going to look, or what you need or you required from ISEC. Okay, so do not forget to fill this form.
Total portfolio should be invested in this fund. Again, that depends, that varies from person to person. There is no hard and fast rule through which we can just determine how much you should put in a particular fund. Another question which I can see here is, I am new to investment. Is it necessary to invest via fund manager? That totally again depends what kind of energy and time you want to put in to decide your investment portfolio. If you have that much expertise or not. So, in case you feel that you have time, energy, and expertise, you must do it on your own so as to save on the cost. Of course, when you make the investments on your own, you save on the cost, but then you do not get the advantage of the fund manager's expertise. So you have to decide on your own whether you want to pay certain price to somebody who is competent enough to manage funds for you, or you feel yourself confident enough that you can do it on your own. So that totally depends. uh, what I would say is that the amount of money that you uh, put into equity, that should be determined on the basis of your age, on the basis of your life cycle, and other things. And generally, as a rule, we recommend that 100 minus your age should be the amount of money that you should put in the equity and the risky investments. So if you're 25 years of age, 75% of your savings, 75% of your investment can go into risky investment classes. Whereas if you are already at 50 or 60 or 70 of age, then of course your investments in the risky assets should reduce to maybe 25%, 30%, and 40%, and so on. Any other question?
Pradeep asked to share the presentation. So, Pradeep, I would like to tell you that the presentation will share with you on your mail, and we will also upload this recording of this session on our YouTube channels. You can watch there. I believe you all have filled this form. One more question is, madam, can we put all money in one AMC fund?
The rule of diversification says that we should not put all our eggs in one basket. So, the entire money, we have talked about diversification, the entire money should not be put into one kind of investment. You should always diversify. Even when you talk about one kind of fund, you must not try to put in all your money in one kind of fund.
Any other question? Iftikhar, Netrapal, Sandeep, Viral, Pradeep. Any questions, guys? And kindly, okay, no way scheme, but in one AMC.
Various schemes in one AMC, if you trust it, of course, you can go for it. Yes, diversification says that you must put your money into different schemes from different maybe AMCs. But in case you're confident enough, then you can do that. But you should try to at least diversify amongst the schemes.